Hi, welcome to Build Your Thing. Thanks for being here. I'm your host, Mick Spencer, and in this show, we dive in to how local and global experts have gone on their journey of building their thing. And that comes through to everything in small business, which we can hopefully pass on to you, the listener, and the small business builder. We're so excited. We hope you love this show and continue to enjoy it. We really encourage you to subscribe, share it with your friends and family. We want to push this message all over the world to be helping more freedom and help more people build their thing. Let's dive right in. Content guru, leading digital marketing agency owner, Josh Israeli. Welcome to Build Your Thing.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
It's welcome to the Northern Rivers, mate. A little bit warmer up here than Sydney.
Definitely, except today seems to be raining a bit, but it's a very nice opportunity to meet you either way.
That's good, mate. It's good to have you up here. And it's a very timely topic. I mean, I've always, 15 years, loved digital marketing, but for small business owners, mate, at the moment, it's a tough time. You know, AI's coming in, everyone's wondering where to put their dollars, how to compete, how to show differentiation. You know, Swan Studio, mate, amazing business. You've created one of Australia's leading kind of content creation agencies, you know, probably the best and the biggest, right? You're a young guy, mate. Tell us a bit more about it before we get into it.
The story?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I always begin the story with talking about another business that I co-founded around 4 years ago called Urban Swan. So not Swan Studio. Urban Swan is, because it still operates today, a marketplace to book really fun and exciting date experiences. The way that we got started on that business, quite literally, was my co-founder and I his name's Dean, would take our phones and we would just go around Sydney or Melbourne and just profile really cool things to do for date night and post that on social media. And we didn't really have an intention to start a business, but we just created a really solid amount of content that people really wanted to interact and engage with. And from there, it just got more and more traction. We realized, all right, there's a bit of a business here. And we built a website and a marketplace, but I guess something quite peculiar happened. Instead of just earning a reputation for selling experiences online, a lot of businesses would approach us for our content creation expertise and capabilities. So they would say, hey, Dean and Josh, we're seeing all the content that you're putting out on your own Instagram, on your own Facebook, on your own TikTok. Can you help us do it ourselves? And we started doing that slowly, and that evolved into doing it on a more recurring basis. And then around 2 years ago, you know, we were like, all right, we're pretty good at this content creation thing. Instead of just doing it for experience providers or restaurants and bars, let's broaden out the offering. Let's go after all different types of industries and sectors, and let's create a business now which we call Swan Studio, which focuses on content creation at the core. So it was definitely not an intentional business, but we had the right idea and approach, and we just wanted to create content that people cared about. And we always to this day found that the most important thing to really cut through on social media. It's about creating content that someone really wants to watch and interact with. And that's the philosophy we've applied.
I love that, man. So you ended up, you were effectively building a business and you know, the number one thing that was getting the eyeballs was your content.
Correct.
And you're going, hang on, I love this. And I feel like we're mastering it.
Yeah.
Why don't we actually start offering this wider? And then, and just as a side note, was that like more of a, you know, this business I'm not as excited by as this business, so let's dive much deeper into actually offering this wider? Or what was the big decision to make the huge jump?
I mean, it's a good question, and I haven't told this story probably to anyone, but I still remember the first day we had this realization. So when we would onboard a new experience provider to Urban Swan, part of the offering was we would basically organize content creators, or what we call date seekers, to go to the experience, film it on their phone, and then give us the raw assets, which we would convert into UGC and post on our own socials, which would give these businesses a lot of exposure. But it would actually benefit us because if the video went viral, it would bring a lot of transactions and visitors to our website. So we would do it for free.
Got it.
And one day I was onboarding a new business. I won't say its name today, but they finished the phone call or the pitch for me, telling them about how Urban Swan works in our offering. And then when I mentioned to them that we're going to come down and get content at their venue, they said, how much? And I remember looking at my co-founder going, and I just go, $200. And they were like, yep, sounds good. And I was like, oh my God, that was
I should have offered more.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, well, that was an easy $200. Why don't we go and offer all the existing guys the opportunity to re-get some or reshoot some content? So we went back to all these businesses and they were all so keen and eager. And for us, this is such an exciting opportunity. And we just realized that there was a lot of revenue left on the table that we could go and explore. So that's what we did, and that's kind of the foundation of the business.
Oh, it's good, mate. Great job with it. It's, the agency landscape's busy, but I think what you've done well is you've focused on not trying to be everything to everyone. You've effectively in 2 years said, we're going to, 2 years ago you probably said, let's just do what we love doing. But now 2 years on, you've kind of said, we're the best.
Yeah, exactly. And now we've mastered the craft, and we're still learning because it's always changing as well.
It is, mate. So, digital marketing 2025, it's a hungry beast. Digital marketing for a small business owner, it's Google, pay-per-click, you've got organic search, you've got ads, UGC, this user-generated content, all these social platforms to keep up with, right? Like for so many small business owners at the moment, they're struggling even just getting quotes out to customers, or chasing work or chasing money. But you got to be online, you got to show up, and you got to be consistent. So what are you seeing happen at the moment with digital marketing, and where are small business owners winning and losing?
As you said, it's a very noisy space right now, and there's a lot of places you can advertise. And I think a lot of businesses are moving and focusing a lot more of their attention on social media. And I think historically that was definitely a big focus on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm seeing a lot of small business operators now starting to explore TikTok as a channel. And I think why it's such an exciting time to market on those platforms still to this day is that you can gain mass exposure and virality just by creating such amazing content. And of course, there's platforms out there that allow you to pay and get that exposure. But as a small business operator, one good video can literally turn you viral and get, millions or thousands of eyeballs on your business. So it's just an amazing opportunity. So I'm seeing more and more businesses invest in social media and just creating content. And I think the barriers to entry to doing so are becoming a lot lower as well.
Yeah, and what I hear from a lot of our members and listeners is well, where do I start? And a lot of it's a self-confidence issue. Like, do I get on camera?
Yeah.
What ideas have I got? I mean, the great thing about there's a cool, funny story to do with any product, right? Like you can, whether you're selling curtains or digging trenches for people, you can create content with anything, right?
100%.
Nothing's off limits.
And I think that's a very good point. And I think that, whether you're a plumbing business to a photography business, you just need to create content that people care about, as I said. And, for us, and when I spoke to you, it's about content that's either educational, entertaining, or inspiring. But one key trend that I'm seeing emerge and being quite successful lately is this notion or this series called Founder Stories. And basically, people want to see the behind the scenes of how businesses operate. What does a founder do day to day? Where do the products start from? How do they get to the client? And that style of content has just taken off. So when you ask me, where should a small business really start? I say start by telling your story. Talk about the business. Like, what is its origins? What do you do day to day? And the reason why TikTok and Instagram are so powerful is that it really allows you to build such an authentic and true connectional relationship with your customers. And, just filming what you're doing day to day is the key requirement there.
It's interesting. So you're telling me, if I'm installing solar panels as a job, and as a business, people, I could pretty much just be doing like a basic video in the morning, like getting to work, checking the panels, checking the quotes, making coffee for my staff, delivering them, installing them, and people. And you're right, because I've seen just some things you go, wow, that's got huge views.
Yeah.
And it's just behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it's raw, it's authentic. And we've had probably a few years of marketing being lifted and a bit faceless. And it's probably coming back around to people want to buy from someone they trust.
Exactly, 100%. And I mean, there's a trend on TikTok that's pretty viral, which is a day in the life. So people want to hear about a day in the life of a person who installs solar panels. So that's exactly right. And I think the key requirement as well to doing well on these platforms is all about authenticity. So the more real and the more natural and the better you are at that storytelling, you will succeed. So that's really important.
It's a good point because business is hard, right? And I think people think that on social media they need to show all the great stuff, but sometimes maybe showing the worst stuff is probably going to get better results, right? Like
In fact,
your top 5 failures last month or whatever it is.
100%. I mean, like, people are always attracted to failures and negatives for whatever reason, but no, the more real and the more natural and the more authentic you can create the content to be like, you will do a better job. So that's very important.
So what's your advice for, let's say we've got enough time for TikTok and Instagram goes to Facebook. How often should I be posting on each of those channels within reason if I've got a small team of 3 to 5 people?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it does vary on a few different things, but I guess like a general rule of thumb that I like to give is, Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, like posting, at least 3 or 4 times a week is good. I've been to a couple of TikTok webinars recently, and people have come to our office from TikTok, and they're also pushing this agenda that you should really focus on quality over quantity. But then other times I've heard from people in the space or thought leaders that trying to post multiple times every single day is key, and that's what you should do. So I guess it depends. If you do have the resources and the time, like, try post as much content as you can, but don't just post for the sake of it. Make sure that it does add value to someone, and there's at least a strong chance that this content will perform. And I think 3 or 4 videos is a nice benchmark to go off.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's a big realization for a lot of small businesses at the moment that this has to become a huge priority for them, and the members that I've seen that are killing it in the Bizbuilders community are actually ones who have like literally hired a full-time editor in-house even. I've got one of our members they do decking. And they've literally like started their own decking podcast. They have
Amazing.
They're doing their own videos. They're doing case studies. And it's not a huge business, but maybe 10 staff.
Yeah.
But they've gone, I'm going to take a bet on this and we need to be relevant. And they've created their own YouTube channel, and it's awesome because they've created insane amount of leads from that. So maybe the video editor and all the time and cost is $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
They're probably doing $1 or $2 million extra of revenue as a result of that. So if you look at it that way, it's like, well, and I think that's one thing small business owners probably need to realize is you can't just set and forget as a founder nowadays. If you do want to grow, you got to probably learn about this stuff.
Yeah, and it needs to be a big part of your strategy. It's really what's key, as you said.
It's a good point. And, so what's your experience with engagement, right? So I'm producing the content, and I've seen this time and time again, right? You make the best reel.
Yeah.
You go, this is insane. Like, it looks so good.
Yeah, and it does it before.
And then I post it and it's like, and it's had 500 views. And then this other thing over here's been done and we did it really quick and it's had 100,000 views.
Yeah.
What's your views nowadays? Like, how can I win over that engagement and get the best viewership on videos?
It's a great question, and I wish I knew myself how the algorithm works because it is definitely random. But I will give some advice on that. And what we like to do at Swan Studio is almost think of it as playing soccer, and you want to have as many shots on target as possible.
Got it.
So when you create content, really make sure that the content does have a chance succeeding. So, in your instance that you were just referring to, you might have thought that it was a great piece of content, didn't perform. But if you did that consistently, I guarantee you that a lot of those assets will perform. But what I've typically seen do well is, as you said, the stuff that feels scrappy and real and authentic. And those are the pieces of content that really cut through. And that's what I've seen for both organic content and paid especially. And there's an entire movement right now that really speaks about the importance of producing ugly ads for this exact reason, almost unintentionally less polished and like feeling ads. And that's because, as you said, people on Instagram, on TikTok and Facebook want to interact with content that just feels more authentic.
I've seen a lot of that, particularly on Instagram in stories, where you're scrolling through stories and you think you're on someone's story, but it's an ad.
Yeah.
And you actually, it's that 1 or 2 seconds that you're engaged with, which can be the difference between getting someone to click through, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's another great tip right now. If you are creating content, your first 3 seconds, which we call the hook, is your most important real estate. So make sure that the opening visual, the opening lines, the text is really what's going to capture someone's attention. And there should be most of the focus on that when you are creating video content.
That's a good point. So I'm kind of going, yep, you know what, from next week, I'm going to go out, I'm going to start creating a bit more content. You know, if I'm doing it for Instagram, what's your recommended length of video?
Yeah. Is this for an organic piece of content or an ad?
Say organic. So, you know, I'm a plumber, and I do, you know, specialist drainage, and I'm going to start next week.
Yeah.
Shooting some videos and just going to try how it all goes.
Yeah. It's a good question. I'll start with answering, you know, what the duration should be on an ad, because it's quite an interesting thing. And there is this amazing phenomenon that happens with ads, that the duration of an ad should almost mirror or try basically be the exact length of the person that you're targeting. For example, if you're targeting 30-year-olds, the duration of an ad should be approximately 30 seconds in length. As you get older, it becomes 50 seconds for 50-year-olds, 60 seconds for 60-year-olds. And as you go younger, the duration of the video should be a lot shorter. And I think you can almost apply a similar logic or approach to organic socials. I think that the duration is slightly less important, but you know, it just depends on the type of video that you're creating.
It's a good rule of thumb. So you're saying, and so I'm assuming maybe a good step for people is to actually sit down and think about who is their customer, right? Like,
yeah,
that's just something that I think we've all been at fail of doing, right? Is like, oh, we sell to everyone. Well, it's like, well, if you really break it down, you probably don't. You've probably got a couple of key customers.
Probably one of the most important things and it gets forgotten a lot, as you mentioned. You know, on social media or whether we're in business, we're targeting someone, and different demographics or different people have different things that they want to consume or watch. And being so conscious of that is so key. And in fact, if I'm creating content, I always like to think of who I want to be watching that video first.
Sure.
And that's an important thing to do.
Okay. So, and so almost like visually go, I sell to, you know, to largely female homeowners. They're probably close to 40 years old. Yeah. And I also sell to, you know, males in their early 20s. They're the two kind of customers that buy my product. What do they want to see?
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're saying.
100%.
Okay, interesting. Now, you know, so for a business owner who goes, you know what, I want to invest in this and I want to go see an agency, I'll get someone else to do it because I've tried it. It's working. Yeah. I'm keen to double down on this.
Yeah.
Tell me, what should the brands be doing? Like what you would see, I mean, you work with some of the biggest and best brands in Australia. They invest in you. Your agency's at capacity at the moment. Yeah. You obviously do pretty good. You know, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Try to, what, you see a lot of bad stuff though, right? You see businesses that come with just like not enough specifics. Like tell me what I should be preparing before I come and see an agency.
Yeah. It's a good question. You know, I think it depends on a number of things, but, you know, coming as prepared as you can to meeting with agencies is only going to enhance and improve the content that you receive. And what I like to do as an agency is really request comprehensive briefs. I've seen ones that you've produced as well, and they look pretty good, but, you know, I really want to understand who is your target persona? What are you trying to get out of this content? Because that's another really good point. You know, when you're posting content on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, there's different goals and objectives to them, right? One goal might be you're trying to go viral or you're trying to build brand awareness. Another goal for your content is to try drive an acquisition, mostly relevant for e-commerce owners. So really understanding what your goals are for social media and what you're trying to get out of it. The next is I like to see, you know, examples of videos that have performed well and examples of stuff that hasn't gone well. Consolidating all of that into a clear brief is really important. And I think it's going to enhance the quality of the work that you receive from agencies. The more information that they have, the better.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think too many business owners I've seen, and look, I've been in this bucket as well, where you go, I've engaged an agency, they're just going to do everything and it's going to be amazing. And then after 3 months, it's like, you know, the agency's like, well, I just didn't have enough understanding and I didn't have enough content and you kind of, your dreams are unrealistic and then the owner gets annoyed and they leave. So I think one thing I do now, and I encourage kind of all of our members and any business I'm involved with, is let's take a breath before we go to anyone and sit down and write. Yeah. What do we want? Like, what does actual success look like?
Exactly.
If we can tell the agency what success looks like in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, makes us think about it and it makes them think about it. We're all aligned to the winning objectives. Yeah. Rather than just send them an email and go, hey, here you go for it. Yeah. Make me famous.
For sure. And I think good agencies will extract that information if it's not presented to them initially. So for instance, when we kick off every single client, we have a kickoff call and we request that type of information. We want access to their data. We want to understand who their personas are. So we ask a lot of those questions, but some agencies might not do that, and then they go straight to the content creation part, and then that's kind of a recipe for failure, to be honest.
And would you say if businesses are engaging with creators, content creators, same thing?
Exact same thing, right? The more information that you give them, and be as specific as you possibly can. These guys can't read your mind. So, if you want specific shots, call that out in the brief. If you want them to say certain things, give them the lines. Make sure you're giving them all the parameters that you kind of want for your content. And again, you're going to receive a lot, better work because of that. But one thing as well, just on that note, at the same time, of giving them a lot of guidance and steer, we also like to give the creators an opportunity on top of that to freestyle.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where you get a bit of magic. So make sure you get the fundamentals right and everything you want out of it, but also give them some scope to just speak off the cuff, create some content that they think would work well. And that's sometimes where you get really authentic and natural content as well.
Yeah. And it's a good point because, if a creator is actually
bought
in your target demographic as well.
Exactly.
Sometimes the founder or the owners just don't know best. And that's, we all think, we know best. But I think what you can is go, well, I know my product the best.
Yeah.
And I know its best benefits of why we're the best, why we're awesome at it. But let's maybe let people just give it a go. And it might be a bit different, but hey, nowadays we've got to try that.
Yeah, for sure.
And test. And, I've seen a lot of business owners who they've actually gone, we're hammering socials. It's going really well. We're going to bring an agency on now or someone in-house to do it. And as the founder, we're kind of moving on now. And then 3 months later, you look at the results or the engagement score and it's completely dropped off.
Yeah.
And, I'm often kicking a couple of businesses in the butt to go, guys, you've bought in resource. But that actually means we're doubling down. It doesn't mean you're taking a back seat now.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Are you seeing that a bit as well?
Not really, but I can see why that is an issue. I mean, if you are going to invest in content and you are the founder of the business, 100% be actively involved. Don't remove yourself from the process. You are the most knowledgeable. You're the most invested in this whole business. You're going to get the best results out of it if you do support the agency or the creator or even someone in-house who is creating that style of content.
Yeah. So let's talk kind of spending and ads and how much I should be putting behind each channel. So what's your minimum hurdle recommendation? I've seen businesses that they're just not putting enough on to really play the game.
Yeah.
And often they're not able to track what success looks like. So they don't want to take more of a jump. But
well, that's a really important thing. So before even thinking about spend, take a step back and think about what your goals and objectives are. What does success look like? Because the way that you advertise on these platforms can radically change based on what those objectives really are. So that's the first part, number one.
Got it. And how, and then, once we've got a bit of a clear idea, do you recommend people, allocating a percentage of their sales that they want to hit? Or is it what's usually your recommendation of trying to uncover how much people have got to spend, right? Because you've got to spend to play.
Yeah, it's a good question. I hate saying it depends, but it does depend on, where the business is at in their journey and what they're trying to achieve. But I will say a few things to that. Number one is with advertising on Meta or TikTok, it is a bit of trial and error involved. You can't know for sure what type of results you're going to see because it does vary based on the business, the sector, your product, a few other things. So I always like to recommend spending a small amount on these platforms. And the beauty of them is that they don't have minimum amounts to spend. You can spend a few $100s on TikTok or Meta just to try and uncover, what type of results am I going to see? Now, if I double that, what does that result look like? So you can spend small amounts of money. And in fact, I would recommend doing that, especially on TikTok. If you are going to post some content, putting $50 behind even an organic piece of content will just ensure that it gets the reach that it deserves and it doesn't require, massive outlays of capital. So, that's a good benchmark. So on a monthly budget, I think, trying to dedicate like a minimum, I would say, of around $500 would be like a good starting point.
So start at 500,
Yeah.
and then maybe like break that into like a daily spend, and then kind of go, okay, well, I've started spending, $10 to $20 a day.
Yeah.
It's working. I might bump that to 50.
Yeah.
And are you like for a business owner, I've always said, depends on your margins.
Yeah.
But you want to be making 5 times your spend into revenue minimum, right? Which, depends on how much cash the company's got, where they're at in their life cycle, as you said. Like if they're in a new market, maybe they're opening up, they're not going to get that straight away.
Yeah.
But you're also not going to get 10 times straight away. So
yeah.
Look at it over like the year, and it's like, well, if you want to do $1 million of sales, you may need to cough up 100 to 200 grand in marketing cost.
Yeah.
Because at that million, you can probably scale to 2 or 3 times that.
Yeah. I feel like it's hard to give like a rule of thumb for return on ad spend because, again, it varies based on the industry that you're in. So, for example, if I sell furniture or something that's, a bit of a higher ticket item, I will inherently have a better ROAS because if I sell a couch for $2,000 and I spent, $1,000 on ads, that's a great, even less, $100 on ads, that's a 20 times ROAS or whatever. But if I operate or I sell, a drinks product or something like that, which has a smaller AOV, I might be happy with a 2 or 3 times return on ad spend, depending on what my margins are. So you can't really set a rule and apply it to every single industry or sector. I think what's important is to just understand what your margins are and how much you can afford to play around with your ad spend. And the other variable as well is like, if you do acquire a customer, do they come back or not? Because that allows you to actually play around with some more ROAS as well.
So you might sell, you might sell pet food. It's like $80.
Yeah.
You get a customer, but they might order off you 7 times a year.
Exactly. So I might even be happy with a, 1 times return on ad spend.
True.
If I know that they're coming back. So
and you would just calculate like how many times in the year they've ordered. Obviously they're coming back to you after they've ordered. So you don't have to spend that money again on the ad.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really important.
Interesting.
So a
lot of people miss that. A lot of people forget this whole lifetime value piece because they go, we've spent the money, we've got to spend it again. No, it's like, well, you've acquired them the first time.
Correct.
And also give them a great experience so they tell their mates.
Yeah.
And if they're with you for 3 years, that might have, it's a good point. Maybe you're happy to lose money on the first sale.
100%.
Spend money on an ads and give them a voucher.
Yeah, exactly. And to your second point around, it does take time to optimize your ads. So don't expect when you're first running ads on Meta or TikTok to achieve like your end state ROAS. The ad engines actually become better over time because they get more data. They understand who your customers are, and then they're able to target similar customer groups. And over time, you'll just see your acquisition costs drop down, hopefully, if you're doing the right things as well in the background.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. And Meta's got a fair bit of changes coming out with all their AI platforms and stuff.
Exactly.
Is that making it easier for businesses or harder? Like what because you got to learn about it more, or is it much change at all? Like what's been your view on that?
I mean, it is scary, and I think anyone who doesn't say that is, an interesting person. But the advice that I always give to small business owners or anyone actually is just have a go. There's so many tools out there and so many things out there. Just find out like what will help and support you. Play around with it. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Move to the next tool and just see how it goes. I think it's easy to be overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that's out there, and some stuff might add value to you, a lot of stuff probably won't. So just play around with it. But in terms of how it's supporting our industry, it's definitely making it a lot easier to create content. There's no doubt about that. I think the real question is like, does it really enhance or improve the quality of the content? I think that's a more interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting recently, YouTube making the statement that they're not going to be accepting AI generated content in time, right? Like, I wonder how that's going to play out with Meta, and if we end up going kind of back to where we were a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows? Meta's like the opposite. They want more AI content. So
yeah, It's a very interesting time, mate. And I think you're right. Like just getting started is one of the biggest things. Like I think a lot of small business owners are really just nervous and self-conscious. They're super scared of getting on camera. I mean, probably the opposite of you. Your comfort zone's like walking around Bondi, interviewing people, filming it, getting people to like answer awkward kind of questions and stuff like that. But I think for a lot of business owners, today, like some love it, but some are just like super scared to start. But then I've seen people who have started who then just get obsessed with it. And then they just start loving it because they see the results.
I know it is a bit of an addiction in that sense. When you have a video go viral, it's the best feeling ever. So I think people do become addicted to that rush of feeling.
So let's talk about that. So what you guys have done at Swan Studios, which I saw on your TikTok, is you've created own channel, but it's not some boring like Swan Studio professional TikTok channel.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm sure you employ people over 30 and over 40, but you have created this channel called the Gen Z office, right? The Gen Z office.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because you're getting some like pretty radical views and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like it is an interesting one. So I guess if we're giving all this advice to people on how to succeed on socials, we have to do it right ourselves. And, if we went to TikTok and Instagram and just spent our entire time on that platform trying to promote and sell our agency, I assume it would likely fall on, deaf ears. People would want to see content that they actually care about, the number one rule. So instead of doing that on TikTok, we thought a more exciting way to engage people would be through creating almost like a mini TV channel about the funny things that happen in a workforce through the lens of the Gen Z culture. So almost every video that we put out on TikTok is a skit, a funny skit, and we've almost created personalities around each of our employees. So, you've got the head of IT who's a 20-year-old tech guy. You've got the person who just says it how it is, the one person who brings like a really smelly lunch like tuna and everyone hating them. So there's a lot of funny personalities in the workforce, and I think there's such an exciting and fun way to bring that to life through TikTok especially.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's actually a pretty funny channel to watch. Like I had a look at it, and it's all the things that people are making fun of. The Gen Z generation, like 4:59, everyone's looking at their watch. 5 o'clock, everyone leaves. Like
that's not what actually happens at the workplace, but it is a funny thing to call out. And one of the other funny things that we did was, given that social media is viewed as a young person game, even though it's not, we actually hired a 70-year-old actor to become a social media intern at our business. And there's a very funny video about it and how he tries to learn the art of social media and TikTok. And it's a good video, so watch it on the platform.
Yeah, we'll definitely share that in the show notes. So on that note, I want to hear about some successes and some plunders, right? So like what you guys have dealt with some amazing brands, done some awesome things. Run me through, like, in your opinion, what one of the campaigns you're most proud of and kind of some of the results.
Yeah, so I guess what's unique about our business is that we focus on both organic and paid, and we do a lot of work on both of those. But paid is a really interesting one for us because you can see results end to end quite quickly as well, and it is an amazing thing. So what does paid mean? Probably I should answer, but that's mainly for a lot of e-commerce brands who are looking to drive the end-to-end conversion or direct response ads on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. So when you're scrolling through Instagram, you might scroll through the feed and see an ad and then click on that ad and then buy straight from viewing that ad. So it is a really interesting sector. So we've worked with clients who we've created the right content for, created the right ad strategy, and we've just sold out of multiple product ranges just through creating the right ads. So that was an awesome time for us. And we continue to do that for a lot of really cool brands. We're working really closely with a pretty well-known healthcare brand called Eucalyptus. And they have, 2 brands that we're currently working with called Juniper and Pilot. And, for Pilot, we had a lot of fun creating content that truly felt organic, but is still an ad at the core. And when we launched that ad into their ad count, it, just went absolutely bananas, took up most of the spend and just drove amazing conversions and transactions. So pretty proud about that one. And on the organic side, we've worked with a lot of clients and turned their pages completely viral. We worked with a brand called AvoFresh who sells guacamole all around Coles and Woolworths. You've probably seen them around. And we went on TikTok and did a campaign with them, and the video's got a few 100,000 views, maybe even close to 1 million now, and the range completely sold out. So there's some really cool case studies on our website for both the organic stuff and the paid stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've seen that other fresh ones, and I think like it's an interesting topic to touch on. Is, you know, a few years ago, I think there was a time where having product centered in your content was important.
Thank you.
Whereas what, I think you've told this to me and I've seen it as well, is nowadays, like, the more salesy you are on the product, the probably worse it's going to perform.
Yeah.
Can you give some insights for that? Because, you might be selling tables, but if you're talking about how good this table is and all the features and everything, it gets a bit boring, right? But if you can inspire the audience as to what that table could create for the space, or dinners you could have on this table, or whatever else, you're seeing results go a lot further. Hey, so it's actually like everyone thinks, oh, I've just got to sell the product.
Yeah.
It's like sell everything else but that.
I
in
know.
a way.
Well, it comes down to the one principle that people just don't like being sold to on social media. That's not why they're using the platforms. So when they see a video or a photo that feels like an ad, the natural reaction to that is just scrolling straight past it. So what you need to do is create value adding content. And every time we put out content, we need to make sure that it's either educational, entertaining, or inspiring. And if you do that, you'll really try to capture, people's attention a lot better. But I guess on that note, I think it's important to be conscious around whether you're creating organic content or ad creative, because with ad creative, you can be more salesy. Our goal there is to try drive a conversion. So we've had experiences in the past where we've created content that's too organic or too far removed from the product. And then when we put it in the ad account, it just doesn't sell. So it gets a lot of engagement and interaction, but we're trying to drive a transaction there. So you need to almost balance the two when you're creating ads. It still needs to feel organic, but at the same time, you still need to communicate the USPs, the product, because we want people to buy, and it still needs to feel authentic and relatable. And that's really important.
Yeah. Okay. And I hear a lot of people, I refer to it a lot as just cold, warm, hot, right? It's like cold might be that organic awareness. Warm and hot's that more like, I've got the product in hand, I'm receiving the benefits or whatever.
100%
in your funnel. What are you seeing now with TikTok and the launch of TikTok shops?
Yeah. Like I said, TikTok is probably one of the coolest platforms going around right now. It's used by half Australians, which is crazy. So it's blown up. So there's a common misconception that it's only being used by Gen Zs or younger people, and that's just not the case. And it is amazing. And I think it's still a lot easier to go viral on TikTok than it is to go viral on Instagram, but there has been some changes there. TikTok Shop is an interesting one. Obviously, it's not in Australia just yet, but there are talks and speculations that it's going to come.
Do you think it'll be here soon, in the next 12 months or less?
I think I would bet on that it's going to be here in the next 12 months, but I'm not sure. And, even the TikTok representatives in Australia aren't sure as well.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah, but it will change the game, and I think it will change how people shop. So when it does come, you should be ready for it. And if you're not adopting it, you're definitely going to fall behind.
Yep. That's really interesting. And you obviously, like, I think the thing with that is, like, you don't have to be selling products online to benefit from these channels, right? Like, you can have basic forms on your website for people to fill in inquiries or get a quote or...
For sure. I mean, one of our more successful TikTok case studies is a business called Credible, and they sell finance for doctors, right? They're not a sexy product, and sorry to the Credible guys.
Take two pretty boring industries.
Yeah, exactly.
Make them fun.
Yeah, so our strategy on TikTok for them was we built a personality around their page, and we actually recruited a junior doctor called Dr. Harry. And the entire page or platform is just all about Harry's life as a doctor. What are the triumphs? What are his, failures? How does he go about finding the right car loan provider. We're not directly selling credible, but we're building a community around Dr. Harry, and people can't wait to get his advice. And the videos just continuously go viral. And then over time, we can subtly, share and put more of a focus on selling credible as a brand. But it still comes down to that principle, right? We're creating educational content. It's entertaining, and people are inspired by what Harry is doing. So you don't have to be a sexy tech product, or you don't have to be like a really cool e-commerce brand. Any business can thrive on social media if they do the right things.
Yeah, it's a good mix: educational, entertaining, inspiring. I think those three, that's a really good kind of pillar structure for when you're producing content or thinking about it. So, mate, run me through your business journey as well. So, like that stuff's super insightful. Lots of really gold nuggets there. You've scaled your own business, right? You're not even 30 yet. Your co-founder's not 30 yet. You're a true Gen Z employer. Only a couple of years in. How many people on the team now?
Well, it's around 20 of us.
Yeah, I mean,
in Australia.
It's a big, and I'm assuming probably similar overseas.
Yeah, something similar.
Yeah, so 40 team members, not even 30 yet. It's a big jump in a couple of years.
Yes.
How it's a pinch point. The 20 employee mark is a real it's a real interesting point in a business, right?
100%. I guess like it's quite interesting when you start off, running a business. You're largely the executor, right? And you wear multiple hats, and you're trying to do everything, but you're the one who's really doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But as you scale, you need to be comfortable with letting go and also honing in on a new skill or craft, which is about management. And that's been a really interesting learning curve for both myself and my co-founder.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's positive that it's a Friday and you're up here in Byron Bay. Taking time out is an essential one for business owners. Hey, you live in this digital world, right? So like, I feel attached to my phone.
Yeah,
and I constantly try and having young kids and just always been available for all my businesses. Like, how do you balance that? Like, what do you do to switch off? Because you could literally spend 24/7 on your phone and on content.
I know it's a really challenging one. And a funny thing, when we write job descriptions for our prospective employees, one of the things that we put in the JD is your screen time concerning? Good, you're in the right place. So we're actually targeting people that are on their phones a lot. But for myself, I definitely do struggle with switching off. One thing that I like to do is play a lot of sport and be very active. I love playing tennis and I love running. So I feel like those are two important times to just completely switch off from my phone. But I'm definitely not the gold star for it. And I think it is a really challenging thing to just force yourself to disconnect, especially in the space that I'm in, which is all about social media, which is very addicting. You're on your phone constantly. So I think putting very clear parameters in place. And in fact, this weekend in Byron Bay, I'm just going to try completely switch off my phone tomorrow for the entire day.
Great. Yeah. And it's important, right? Because you're I'm assuming at that point where you're so good at your craft, which is like producing content and understanding what content is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're the CEO.
Yeah.
You're the leader. So you've got to understand where your people are at.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're the manager and head of sales. So you kind of got to see what is coming up for clients and how do we, bring people in. So how do you give yourself mental kind of, touch points as like what hat you're wearing at that time or?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I have is an amazing co-founder. He's actually one of my best friends as well. And I think it's important because we can share a lot of the load and we're co-CEOs. So that's another really important thing. And I think that's key because we have elements of the role that are clearly split. Like he does a certain part of the business, I do that, but we also share some responsibility as well, which does give me flexibility to come to Byron for a holiday on a Friday. And I feel like that's a really important thing for the space that we're in, this shared partnership.
That's great. And how have you guys gone assembling like a exec team, management team underneath you?
Yeah, that's been one of the key developments in our business. I think when you go from, $0 to $1 million in sales, let's say, you can probably do that by just hustling yourself and, like I said, wearing many of those hats. But to get to that next level, when you're doing a few $1 million or $5 million in sales, you can't do everything and you need to start building a really strong leadership team around you. And that's what we've really focused on over the last 6 to 12 months is hiring the right people. we've definitely gotten that wrong a few times, but we've now hired some really amazing people who have been in this advertising and, marketing space for a long time, who own their respective divisions, are as passionate about the space that Dean and I are, and they're doing a great job. And it allows us to become less hands-on, because when you're starting to scale, like you're a lot of the time the bottleneck. Like if you're doing everything and you're too busy to do one thing, it stops the whole process or production from.
Good point. Not a lot of business owners see that.
Yeah.
They're actually holding growth back sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you free up your time to then focus on some cool things like growth initiatives, that's going to enhance the business a lot more than you trying to do everything as like the, salesperson, marketing person, account manager, accountant. So definitely having the right people allows you to free up the time to do some of those really cool things.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And what's so you guys have only been launched 2 years, Swan Studio?
Yeah.
What's the next 2 years look like?
Global domination? Nah, we're very ambitious guys. For starters, we want to be the leading content creation agency in Australia, but we also want to do that in the world. And the way that we get that is we almost view it like a bit of a triangle. So for us to get to that point of being the best, we have to hire the best people, because we are a service-based business. If you hire the best people, you produce the best content. And if you produce the best content, you become the best in the game. So that's what our plan is. So hiring the right people is really key. And that will allow us to create content for the coolest brands around the world and really just continuously hone in on that craft.
Love it, mate. We had a couple of questions from some members, but one of them was, we noticed there was no pricing on your website. Do you recommend that for service-based businesses?
It's a good question. I think for us, it makes sense, but it might not for a lot of other businesses. I've seen transparent pricing work really well. I think if you're in a space like we are, where there's so many variables that go into creating content, some content, some pieces of content require multiple content creators. It might be harder to recruit content creators for that industry for whatever reason. We have to definitely charge different pricing based on it. So we can't just have a flat rule, because there's too many inputs that go into that. So it doesn't make sense for us. But if you sell quite a homogenous product, I don't see an issue with being transparent about your pricing. But there's also benefits to it not being so transparent. So you can create more tailored pricing to the customers that you're going after.
Cool. And lastly, one of the other questions that I liked was, I'm a hairdresser and I've got $1,000 to spend. Where would I be putting that in the next month?
Oh, great question. Again, what are the objectives? Are you trying to get more people to come in and get haircuts? I still think I would put the money mostly in TikTok. And I think that's because your CPMs are still a bit lower on TikTok. So
CPMs are cost per
measurement. Yeah. So it's a really important thing to consider. And you're probably going to get way more eyeballs on content if you do it like that. But just as a rule of thumb, what I'm seeing generally in the industry is still Meta is the key channel for driving conversions. And if you are, like I said, an e-commerce business, I would definitely put that entire budget into Meta. But if you are a service-based business and you're not trying to drive conversions and you want awareness, TikTok might be the better option for you.
Awesome, mate. Unreal. Lots of golden nuggets for heaps of small businesses today, mate. Thank you. Thank you for joining, and enjoy your time in Byron Bay, brother.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. We'll share all the details of Swan Studio and Gen Z office in the show notes.